You know that feeling when someone tries to get under your skin? That precise moment when they say something designed to wound you, and you feel it, that sharp sting in your chest, that heat rising up your neck, that instant fury that makes your hands clench without you even realizing it. Maybe it's your boss making that passive-aggressive comment in front of the whole team. Maybe it's your partner throwing that low blow during an argument. Maybe it's that friend who always knows exactly which button to push to make you explode. And here's what kills you. They see it. They see your jaw tighten. They see your eyes flash with anger. They see your composure crack. And in that microsecond when your emotion shows, when your mask slips, you've lost. Not the argument, not the conversation. You've lost something far more valuable. You've lost your power. Because the person who can make you feel is the person who controls you. The person who can trigger your anger, your hurt, your defensiveness. That person owns you in that moment. They pull the strings and you dance. They speak and you react. They provoke and you explode. And the worst part? You know it's happening. Even as you're raising your voice, even as you're defending yourself with increasing desperation, even as you're trying to make them understand, there's a voice in the back of your mind whispering, you're doing exactly what they want you to do. You're giving them exactly the reaction they were fishing for. You're proving you can be controlled. If you're tired of being the puppet in someone else's game, if you're exhausted from having your emotions weaponized against you, if you're ready to learn what real power actually looks like, then stay with me, because what I'm about to show you will fundamentally change how you navigate every single relationship in your life. Here's something that Robert Greene understood better than almost anyone when he wrote the 48 Laws of Power. He said the best deceptions are the ones that seem to give the other person a choice, and the greatest power move isn't dominating someone through force, it's making them believe they're in control while you're actually the one pulling the strings. But before you can master external control, you must first master internal control. And that's where most people fail catastrophically. They try to control others before they've learned to control themselves. They try to project power while being slaves to their own emotions. It's like trying to command an army when you can't even command your own mind. Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War that, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. But here's what most people miss: your emotions, your triggers, your reactive patterns. Those are the enemy within. Those are the vulnerabilities that skilled manipulators will exploit over and over again until you learn to shut them down completely. The Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, they understood this at a molecular level. Marcus wrote in his Meditations that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But let me be brutally honest with you. That's easier said than done when someone is actively trying to destabilize you. When someone is weaponizing your own emotional responses against you. Let me paint you a picture of what this looks like in real life. You're in a meeting, you've prepared a presentation, you know your material inside and out. You stand up to speak, and that one colleague, you know the one, makes a subtle comment. It's not even a direct attack, it's worse. It's a question wrapped in concern. I'm just wondering if you've really thought through the implications of this approach. Seems a bit risky, don't you think? And there it is, that spike of adrenaline. Your first instinct is to defend yourself, to explain, to prove that you did think it through, to show everyone in the room that you're not reckless. So you start talking faster, your voice gets a little higher, you start over-explaining points that didn't need explanation, and with every word, you're digging deeper. Everyone in that room can feel your defensiveness radiating off you like heat. They don't even need to consciously register it. Their subconscious is picking up on your loss of frame, your loss of center. And your colleague? They're sitting there with that slight smile, that knowing look that says, I got you. They made one comment and turned you into a rambling defensive mess. They didn't win through superior arguments. They won by making you lose control of yourself. That's the game. That's what's happening in your life right now, over and over, in different contexts with different players, but the same Fundamental dynamic. Someone pushes your button, you react, you lose. The question is, are you ready to stop losing? Before we go any further, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with yourself right now. How many times have you replayed a conversation in your head where someone got to you, where someone said something that hurt or angered you and you just couldn't let it go? You're lying in bed at 3 in the morning, running through all the things you should have said, all the perfect comebacks you didn't think of in the moment, all the ways you could have put them in their place, and the more you replay it, the worse you feel, because you're reliving your own powerlessness over and over again. If this sounds familiar, if you've lost hours or even days to this mental torture, I want you to do something for me right now. I want you to leave a comment below and just write, "I've been there." That's it. Just those 3 words, because when you acknowledge this publicly, even anonymously, you're taking the first step toward breaking free from it. And more importantly, when you see dozens or hundreds of other people commenting the same thing, you'll realize something crucial. This isn't a personal weakness. This isn't you being too sensitive or not tough enough. This is a universal human vulnerability that predators learn to exploit. And until you name it, until you acknowledge it, you can't defend against it. So go ahead, write it down. I've been there, and let's continue. Now let me show you what the alternative looks like. Imagine the same scenario, same meeting, same colleague making the same loaded comment. But this time, instead of jumping to defend yourself, instead of letting that surge of emotion dictate your response, you simply pause. You let the silence hang in the air for just a beat longer than is comfortable. You look at your colleague, not with anger, not with defensiveness, just with calm, observant presence. And then you say something like, "That's an interesting concern. I appreciate you bringing it up. Let me continue with the presentation. And if that specific point isn't addressed by the end, we can circle back to it. Your tone is neutral. Your body language is relaxed. There's no edge of defensiveness, no hint of being rattled. You've acknowledged their comment without taking the bait, without letting it derail you, without giving them the emotional reaction they were fishing for. And here's what happens in that room in that moment. Everyone else watching this interaction, their subconscious is recalibrating. They're registering that you didn't flinch, that you maintained your frame, that you're the one in control of this situation. Your colleague just expended ammunition and got nothing in return. They tried to throw you off balance and you barely moved. That's power. Not loud, not aggressive, not defensive, just unshakable. That's what we're building here. This concept has a name. In the deeper understanding of human dynamics, it's called amused mastery. It's a state where you're so centered in yourself, so unattached to the opinions and manipulations of others, that their attempts to control you become almost entertaining. Not in a mean-spirited way, but in a way that communicates, "I see what you're doing, it's not going to work, and I'm not even upset about it." Think of it like watching a toddler try to manipulate you with a tantrum. You don't get angry at the toddler. You don't defend yourself against the toddler's accusations of being mean. You simply observe the behavior for what it is, a crude attempt at emotional manipulation, and you respond from a place of calm authority. Now, I'm not saying you should treat everyone like toddlers, but the principle applies to anyone trying to control you through emotional provocation. When you're operating from amused mastery, you're fundamentally changing the power dynamic. You're no longer playing their game. You're not even on the board they set up. You're operating from a completely different paradigm where their moves have no effect on you. And here's the beautiful part: when people realize they can't control you emotionally, when they see that their usual tactics bounce off you like water off a duck, they either stop trying or they escalate so dramatically that they expose themselves to everyone watching. Either way, you win. Let me give you another real-world example. Relationships. You're with someone. Romantic partner, family member, close friend, doesn't matter. And they've learned over time how to hurt you. Maybe they know you're sensitive about your weight, your career, your past, something. And during an argument, they go there. They deploy that weapon they know will cut deep. Your old reactive pattern would be to either crumble into hurt and withdrawal, or to escalate into rage and counterattack. Both responses hand them power. Both responses show them that they can control your emotional state. But what if instead, when they launch that attack, you simply look at them with calm eyes and say, "I hear that you're trying to hurt me right now. I'm not going to engage with that tactic. When you're ready to have a constructive conversation, I'm here." Then you disengage. You remove yourself from the situation, not angrily, not dramatically, just calmly and firmly. What you've just done is refuse to play the game. You've named the manipulation without getting defensive about it. You've set a boundary without needing to enforce it through emotional warfare. And most importantly, you've demonstrated that they don't have the power to destabilize you anymore. That's terrifying to someone who's used to controlling you through emotional manipulation. They just lost their primary weapon. Now they have to either change their approach or reveal themselves as the manipulator they are. This is the essence of what Machiavelli understood about power. He wrote that it's better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But here's the nuance that most people miss when they read that. The fear he's talking about isn't fear of your anger or your retaliation. It's fear of your imperviousness. People respect, and yes, even fear, those who cannot be moved, those who cannot be manipulated, those who maintain perfect control over themselves even when everything around them is chaos. Now let's talk about the shadow work that's required to actually implement this. Because here's what's going to happen when you start practicing this: you're going to fail. A lot. At first. Someone's going to push your button and you're going to react exactly like you always have. You're going to feel that flash of anger, and before you can catch yourself, you're going to be in the middle of a defensive tirade. And then you'll catch yourself, and you'll feel like a failure, and you'll wonder if this stuff even works. This is the critical moment. This is where most people give up. They expect themselves to transform overnight from reactive to masterful, and when that doesn't happen, they conclude it's impossible. But here's what you need to understand. Every single person who's mastered emotional control went through thousands of micro-failures on the way there. The difference is, they didn't let the failure become an identity. They saw each reactive moment as data, as information about where they still had work to do. When you catch yourself reacting, that's not failure, that's awareness. And awareness is the first step toward change. So instead of beating yourself up when you slip, get curious. What specifically triggered you? Was it the words themselves or the tone? Was it who said it or where they said it? Was it really about this moment, or is it connected to some older wound that never healed? This is the shadow work. This is going into the dark places in your psyche where your vulnerabilities live and shining light on them. Because every trigger, every button that can be pushed, is pointing to something unresolved in you. Maybe it's shame you've never processed. Maybe it's fear you've never acknowledged. Maybe it's pain you've never let yourself fully feel. And as long as those wounds remain in the shadow, they control you. They dictate your reactions. They hand power to anyone who knows how to prod them. But when you drag them into the light, when you look at them directly and process them consciously, they lose their grip on you. You're no longer running from your own pain. You're integrating it, owning it, and thereby neutralizing it as a weapon others can use against you. Here's a practical technique you can implement immediately. The next time someone says something that triggers an emotional response in you, before you react, take 3 deep breaths. I know that sounds almost insultingly simple, but there's profound wisdom in it. In those 3 breaths, you're creating a gap between stimulus and response. Viktor Frankl, who survived Nazi concentration camps, wrote that between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. 3 breaths give you that space. In that space you can observe your own emotional reaction without being swept away by it. You can notice the anger rising and think, Interesting, I'm feeling anger right now, without identifying as an angry person in this moment. You can feel the hurt and think, there's pain here, without collapsing into victimhood. This is advanced psychological territory. This is what the Buddhists call witnessing consciousness, the part of you that can observe your own mental and emotional states without being controlled by them. And when you operate from witnessing consciousness, you have options. You can choose to engage or not engage. You can choose to respond or to let the moment pass. You can choose to address it directly, deflect with humor, or simply acknowledge and move on. The key is that you're choosing. You're not being controlled by automatic reactions that were programmed into you years ago by people who had no business programming you. Let me give you a 7-day challenge that will accelerate your progress dramatically. For the next 7 days, your mission is to not defend yourself verbally to anyone about anything. I don't care if someone accuses you of something unfair. I don't care if someone questions your judgment. I don't care if someone insults you directly. For 7 days, you're going to practice the art of non-defense. This doesn't mean you become a doormat. It means you refuse to play the game where you justify your existence to people who haven't earned the right to judge you. When someone tries to provoke a defensive response, you're going to use phrases like, "You're entitled to your opinion," or "I hear that you see it that way," or simply, "Okay," and then you're going to move on with your life. Watch what happens. Some people will escalate. They'll keep poking, trying to get the reaction they're used to, getting from you. Don't take the bait. Stay calm, stay neutral, and watch them reveal themselves. Other people will immediately start treating you differently. They'll unconsciously register that the old power dynamic has shifted. You're no longer someone who can be controlled through criticism or judgment. You're someone who's centered in yourself regardless of their opinion. And here's the profound part. After 7 days of this practice, you're going to notice something shift inside you. You're going to care less what people think. Not in a nihilistic way, but in a liberated way. You'll realize that most of the time when you were defending yourself, you were actually defending yourself to yourself. You were trying to convince yourself that you were okay, that you were right, that you were worthy. But when you stop defending externally, you stop doubting internally. You start to internalize the truth that you don't need anyone's validation to exist powerfully in the world. Now, I want to address something important, because some of you might be thinking, but isn't this just emotional suppression? Isn't this unhealthy? And that's a valid question. There's a crucial difference between emotional suppression and emotional regulation. Suppression is pushing feelings down, pretending they don't exist, bottling them up until you explode or implode. That is unhealthy. What we're talking about here is regulation. You feel the emotion fully, you acknowledge it internally, but you don't let it control your external behavior in the moment. Later, in private, you can process that emotion. You can journal about it, talk to a therapist about it, examine where it came from and what it means. But in the moment of conflict, in the moment when someone is trying to manipulate you, you maintain composure. You don't give them the satisfaction of seeing they've gotten to you. This distinction is critical. The goal isn't to become an emotionless robot. The goal is to become someone who experiences emotions without being enslaved by them. You feel deeply, but respond consciously. That's mastery. That's power. That's freedom. Let me share with you one more layer of this that most people never discover. When you've truly mastered this principle, when you've reached a state where very little can shake your emotional equilibrium, something remarkable happens. You start to see manipulation attempts before they land. Your subconscious becomes so attuned to the patterns that tells, the subtle shifts in energy that precede an attack, that you can feel it coming. And when you can see it coming, you can position yourself strategically before the strike even happens. It's developing a sixth sense for psychological combat. You walk into a room and you can immediately read the power dynamics. You can see who's aligned with whom, who's threatened by whom, who's planning what move. This isn't paranoia. This is clarity. And from that place of clarity, you can navigate social situations with grace and precision that looks effortless to others, but is actually the result of deep internal work. This is what separates the amateurs from the masters in the game of social power. Amateurs react to what's happening. Masters shape what's happening through their presence. Alone. When you're unshakable, people feel it. They adjust their behavior around you without even knowing why. They treat you with more respect. They're less likely to try their usual manipulations. And when they do try, they fail so quickly and obviously that they don't try again. If you've made it this far in this video, something in this message has resonated with you. Maybe it's because you're tired of being the person who loses their cool. Maybe it's because you've seen what real power looks like and you want that for yourself. Maybe it's because you're exhausted from having your emotions used against you and you're finally ready to change that dynamic. Whatever brought you here, you're in the right place. This channel exists for people who are ready to understand power as it actually operates, not as we wish it operated. I put out content every single week on the psychology of power, on strategic thinking, on how to navigate social hierarchies without losing your soul in the process. This isn't about becoming cruel or manipulative. This is about becoming unmanipulatable. There's a profound difference. If this resonates with you, if you want to continue learning these principles and mastering them in your own life, hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. And if this video helped you see something about yourself or your relationships more clearly, leave a like so more people who need this message can find it. The algorithms reward engagement, so your like actually helps this reach someone else who's struggling with the exact same patterns you've struggled with. I'll see you in the next one. And remember, the person who can make you feel is the person who controls you. So stop letting people control you.